Palenose was hit hard by Tumblestripe's death. He missed her, he really did. But it's hard to make his clanmates see that when he took a new mate not a moon after his old one died. Many say Palenose never cared, but that isn't true. He loved Tumblestripe more than anyone. It was Thornsilk's idea for them to get together, to help Palenose get over his grief, and ensure his kits would have some sort of mother in their lives. Before his mate died, Palenose had a few close calls of his own, nearly getting bitten by a snake and almost getting swept away by the sea in very much the same way Greyrobe was. Thornsilk loved her stepkits at first, but as the moons went by, she started to get more annoyed with them, as she would regularly have to resolve arguments between them. Sometimes she would have to stop the same fight multiple times a day. She started letting Palenose handle most work having to do with the kits and adored her time away from the clan on mediator missions. Thornsilk got sick with Greencough on Moon 8 and was shocked to hear that Palenose had tried to ask Fleckfeather to be his mate as well. Thornsilk was furious that Palenose might be trying to get a new mate in case she died, but that wasn't the case. Palenose found Fleckfeather to be a perfect balance for Thornsilk. She was gentle where Thornsilk was rough, kind when Thornsilk was stern, and so on. He started to feel that he liked her more than his current mate, but he still loved Thornsilk. She constantly challenged him and, in a way, balanced him out. He later received his own son, Shadepaw, as an apprentice, which shocked him as there were better choices. He did his best to be a good mentor, but occasionally messed things up on patrol. Like that time he chased a fox up a cliff instead of off the territory. Or the time he got his kit run over by a monster. What about that time Crouchrump got taken by two legs on his patrol? Palenose doesn't feel like he's fit to be a mentor, and has talked to One Star about it, but she assures him he will do better. All in all, Palenose's year has been confusing at best and heartbreaking at worst. He doesn't seem to know what's best for himself right now, and I hope he can figure it out next year. Fleckfeather's year was uneventful, except for one big change. It was a real shock to her when she spotted her mother walking through the camp entrance, being escorted by Palenose and Bonelion. One Star allowed her to join, and to Fleckfeather's shock, her mother chose to name herself after Fleckfeather. Spotfeather tried to reconnect with her daughter, claiming to be making up for lost time, but Fleckfeather didn't see her as her mother, just another clanmate. Spotfeather didn't stop trying, however, accompanying Fleckfeather on mediator duties, and sitting next to her whenever they were eating. Fleckfeather didn't want to hurt Spotfeather's feelings, so she never told her to go away. She would put on a smile and try to make Spotfeather feel welcome, despite the awkwardness. When Palenose's kids became apprentices, Spotfeather received Lightpaw as her apprentice, which gave Fleckfeather an excuse to get away from her mom. She would often take the time to enjoy a break or sleep whenever Spotfeather was out training Lightpaw. Fleckfeather was quite shocked when Palenose asked her out, but refused, not wanting to get between him and Thornsilk. She also felt it would be weird to be mates with the same cat as her former mentor. When Thornsilk became mates with Palenose, Bonelion decided to turn his attention to someone else. Before he knew it, he was developing feelings for the new medicine cat, Flare Scratch. He knows medicine cats aren't supposed to have mates, so he did his best to ignore the feelings. But every day, they just grew stronger. When he started talking to Flare Scratch, he noticed they had a lot in common. They spent more time together until Flare Scratch finally asked him to be her mate. Bonelion felt extremely flustered. He couldn't ask her to choose between her duties and him, so he declined, saying he needed more time to think. He quickly left before he could see the hurt in Flare Scratch's eyes. Later, he received Slowpaw as his apprentice and was quickly surprised to see the young she-cat's ferocity. Bonelion focused on teaching her restraint regarding her strength, and mainly taught her hunting strategies, not wanting to rile her up too much with battle training. On one training session, Slowpaw brought up a dream she thought was a StarClan vision. When she asked Bonelion what it could mean, Bonelion got nervous. He knew all about StarClan, but none of it ever made sense to him. He didn't understand how cats who were dead could communicate with cats who were still alive, and he certainly had no idea how a prophecy would be interpreted, if even the medicine cats had a hard time with that. In the end, they returned to camp without Slowpaw getting any answers. Slowpaw had been sick quite a few times in the year. As a kit, she caught kitten cough and luckily survived, and later in the year she caught white cough, worrying Flare Scratch to no end. When she was little, Lightkit received a dream from a dark brown she-cat she didn't recognize. The she-cat wore a red flower in her fur and spoke gently to Lightkit, warning her that the jaws of death would strike twice and miss only once. Frightened, Lightkit woke and cried to Palenose, telling him a strange cat visited her in her dream. Palenose comforted her and told her it was just a dream, thinking nothing more of it. It didn't take long for Lightkit to recover from the warning, and she was immediately acting like she was tougher than anyone in the clan. She would scold One Star and order other cats around like she was the leader. No one got mad at her, except for Thornsilk, and they all found her antics very funny. It wasn't long before Lightkit dreamed of another brown she-cat, but this one had bright blue eyes and no flower. She delivered a similar warning to Lightkit and told her to be careful in the future. Shade Kit was very adventurous and often tried to follow the warriors out of camp on their patrols. He managed to catch a pretty cicada and kept its wings as an accessory. When it was time to become an apprentice, Shadepaw was excited to be apprenticed under his dad. On their first patrol out, Palenose took him out to the Thunderpath, and Shadepaw came up with a game of seeing how many times they could cross before the other chickened out. The game ended with Shadepaw getting hit by a monster, and Palenose rushing him back to camp. Shadepaw found out he had a broken bone, and Flare Scratch kept him in the den for the rest of the year. When Shadepaw and Lightpaw heard of the prophecy, Shadepaw was worried, but dismissed it as just a paranoid medicine cat's dreams. But Lightpaw encouraged the others to believe it and heed the warning. Shadepaw was certain that his death wouldn't be possible. With them so close to the water, how could the fire ever reach him or Sandpaw? Even so, they all worried about their own fates. Droploness lived a long, happy life. She got to see so much during her time and knew that the clan in One Star would live on long after she died. When Droploness awoke on StarClan, she was greeted by Grey Web and Grey Mask, who happily welcomed her to their ranks. Droploness felt stronger than she ever did in the past few moons, and when she caught a glimpse of her reflection, she saw a cat much younger than she was in her last moments. While she wanted to rest, she knew her job wasn't done. She visited Light Kit in hopes of preventing the future that her friends had foreseen, but the kit didn't seem to understand. Droploness watched the clan unfold from the stars, and part of her regrets leaving them behind. Curltrump was surprised to feel herself getting jealous of Thornsilk when she became mates with Palenose. What was going on? Palenose was still her friend, so why was she mad at Thornsilk? Curltrump tried to ignore her personal feelings and instead focused on making Palenose feel better after Tumblestripe's death. They raced across the Thunderpath together, Curltrump almost getting hit in the process, but they laughed about it later. Curltrump was happy for Hero in his new position and thought she would ask him for his opinion about her feelings. When she tried to ask, however, Hero only brushed her aside and told her he had to assign patrols for the day. When he was done, he left on his own patrol before she could talk to him. On another patrol, Curltrump chased a rabbit over the Kite Clan border when she was met with an angry warrior. She returned home with a torn pelt and no rabbit. She received Rattlepaw as her apprentice, but he immediately got sick and she couldn't take him out on patrol. Instead, she went out with Palenose and got caught in a two-leg trap while hunting. She got taken away to a two-leg den and avoided the small two-leg kits as best she could. When she learned that they weren't going to hurt her, she relaxed around them more, but still tried to find a way to get out of the house. When her chance came, Curltrump shot out an open door and raced in the direction she thought was the camp. She hadn't gotten home yet, but she's determined to get back to Dragonfly Clan no matter what. And that is it for Year 3. This year feels like the longest so far, with a prophecy, a ton of new cats, deaths, and drama. I didn't make any bonus drawings this year because of my workload. Let me know if I should bring back the bonus art for the next video. Year 4 will be released on the first Saturday of May as usual, so stay tuned for more. And if you want to see more content from me, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you want. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye!